This work session, regular meeting of the Township Council is called to order. Madam Clerk?
In accordance with the Open Public Meeting Act of the State of New Jersey, adequate notice of the Tuesday, July 9th, 29 work session regular meeting of the Franklin Township Council was provided as required by law.
Okay, so just a little public announcement here. The videographer has informed me that we are not live, but we are recording. It's not going out live. She has called the IT department to find out why that's happening, and we'll get that corrected as quickly as possible. If we could all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by the invocation from Deputy Mayor Bassanella. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, republic for which it's one nation, God, indivisible, liberty and justice.
Inspiration will grant us the strength and the power in our thoughts and decisions to be for the benefit of all people at all times. Amen.
Okay, Madam Clerk, call the roll, please.
Councilman Chase?
Here.
Councilwoman Francois?
Here.
Councilman Galtieri?
Here.
Mayor Kramer?
Here.
Councilman Onijaka?
Yeah.
Councilman Prasad? Councilwoman Pruitt?
Here.
Deputy Mayor Vassanella?
Here.
Councilman Wright?
We have no commendations or proclamations tonight, so we're on to public discussion. Do I have a motion to open to the public?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor of opening to the public, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. We are open to the public. Anyone wishing to speak may come to the mic, state your name and address. No yielding of time. You are limited to 5 minutes. Please address the council. Come on up.
Well, good evening, everyone. My name is Azimuddin, 2 Castle Court, Somerset, New Jersey, 08873. I just saw a news article that I was interested in and decided to come see the council today and express my views on it. The report that I saw mentioned that our current police department, the way it's shaped from being driven by the chief, is going to be moved on to a public safety director. And being a town that's actually growing and becoming a larger town every day and having more complexity, I thought the current form of government that you all have right now, where it's a Faulkner Act government under the council and the business manager separate, hello, Mr. Vornlocker, the powers, I think, need to be relegated to the citizens, where it's more so, in my opinion, a stronger form of government where the mayor is a strong mayor that has accountability to the government, to its citizens. It's needed in this town at this point. Where I see it as, if somebody has that authority that we can elect and have that voice as a citizen, has much more say as a common person to see what happens to its population, will be more accountable than, say, managed through a council where there's multiple bosses to Mr. Vornlocker. Mr. Vornlocker is then the second tier responsible party to us as citizens. I'm not sure how it's going to go down, how you guys see this. I know it's a complex act to change forms of government, but I know it's, if you have the best interests of your citizens at heart, that whatever you guys need to do on council to make that more of a favorable democratic process, I know most of you as friends, as persons in the community, that you guys will do the right thing. So it's just in my opinion that if you guys decide to do public advocate, or a public safety director, it should be something that's, facing a democratically elected person that's in charge, and the buck stops with that person, rather than say, as a council, you guys have responsibility, and therefore Mr. Vornlocker has a responsibility after you guys. My opinion. Thank you.
Anyone else wishing to speak?
Beverly Lawson, 2004 Amwell Road. In regards to the public safety director, why the rush to appoint a public safety director? Why not wait until the prosecutor's office has made their decision? It just seems rushed. What are the qualifications for this individual? Because that wasn't listed anywhere. Is the person going to be in law enforcement, or is this going to be a regular citizen? No answer, okay. Then what are you guys trying to cover up? Because it seems like a backdoor deal was done, and this was just thrown upon the public without any knowledge for anyone. The police department wasn't aware of it, the unions weren't aware of it, the prosecutor's office wasn't aware of it. So it just looks like another backdoor deal going on, no transparency whatsoever from this council. As a person who lives in this town, we're just asking for answers. We just really want to know what is going on and why is everything such a secret? Why can't you just let the public know what's going on? Thank you.
Anyone else wishing to speak?
Skip Schaefer, 2 Lair Terrace. I'd like to address Ms. Francois this evening. I want to congratulate you on the progress and the success you've had with bringing the youth center to fruition. I know it's been what might seem like a lifelong project on your behalf, but I congratulate your perseverance. I congratulate your dedication to making that building a reality. And I think we're all looking forward to seeing that building become a reality. So thank you. Frankly, though, I'd love to be even more in your corner and be even more of a champion for you. I mean, I think the concept of that youth center is to provide activities, provide instruction, provide education, provide guidance to youth in our town. Youth that are at risk, youth that aren't at risk, keeping them off the streets, keeping them occupied in the off hours, providing them opportunities to partake in activities that are beneficial to themselves, beneficial to the town. In other words, keep them on the path of right and steer them away from the path of wrong. I don't know how, I mean, you're a sincere person, okay? You're a good person, you're a smart person, okay? You have all the degrees. You're a dedicated person, public servant. I have a hard time reconciling all this activity, all this effort into providing something for our youth to show them right versus wrong. And yet, you just seem to proudly resist addressing right from wrong on the dais up here over the last 4.5 years. You have not made any comments whatsoever in regards to all the unethical, close to immoral, certainly sneaky, underhanded, behind-the-scenes activities that Mr. Prasad has done. You know, I see you out there being a champion for kids, advocating right versus wrong, and I see you here and you can't say word one about right versus wrong. And I just have a hard time reconciling that, and I don't know how you reconcile it, but you know, I'd like, you talk the talk, I'd like to see you walk the walk when it comes to your council colleagues. And he's going to be gone soon. But that doesn't mean what he pulled isn't going to be attempted in the future, as long as you're up there. And I would hope you have the courage in the future to speak out. A simple right versus wrong issue. You're going to be advocating that for hundreds of kids in our town. And you deserve all the accolades that are forthcoming for that youth center. But you can't tell those kids one thing at the youth center and not follow the same example here at the council. So I just hope you can reconcile that in the future. I hope it never comes up again, but you still have the opportunity to address Mr. Prasad before he leaves. So, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak?
I had a lot to say. Johnny Tip, 25 Parkside. I had a lot to say tonight, but being that your thing is all back there, I'm going to be not going to say what I really had on my mind.
They'll see it in reruns. They won't, just aren't seeing it right this second. It will be replayed on TV.
Well,
10
since
seconds.
you
for
said
that.
that it's not, I had some people waiting to hear me, but I'm not going to do it. I'm going to reserve it. I would like to say that, did we get anywhere with the bathroom at Baskin Park? Did we get anywhere
I
with the
believe there's a
bathroom?
porta potty there, John.
What's that?
I believe there's I followed up myself a couple days
Is one there
later,
now?
and I'm not sure when it arrived, but I saw a porta potty there, and the manager maybe can confirm
It
that.
was already planned to go.
was-
All our parks get them, so there was no reason to add. It was already scheduled to be put out there.
Is it there?
There's a porta-john there, yes.
Porta John, I'm sorry, call it porta
Thank
potty.
you, sir. I also like to thank, I see they're getting the pool filled up. I like to thank you guys that the kids are finally getting the pool before the summer gets over, hopefully. And I hope at the same time that proper notification be given to the kids in the area as opposed to the grown-up and adults and senior citizens. That would be very nice for that to happen. I had some conversations for Councilman Wright here, but he's not here right now. But I will say this. You guys are progressive Democrats. Progressive Democrats. That means that you take upon yourselves actions that will benefit this community and this town. Individually, you do not have to have anybody to dictate to you what you think is good for the town. That's what a progressive Democrat does. They seek out things within your community and they act on them. They get the approval from the rest of the council, such as Mr. Prasad. He's a champion of a progressive Democrat. And that's what every one of you should be if you're a progressive Democrat. If you're something else, then so be it. But that's not the persona in which you are to present to the community. Aggressive Democrats seek out certain issues in the towns and they act on them individually. And I'm proud to be one of them, to support you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak?
Santosh Samvello, 14 Girard Avenue, Somerset,
I
New
think you
Jersey,
need to speak more into the mic.
Santosh Samvello, 14 Girard Avenue, Somerset, New Jersey, 08873. I want to let the council know that I'm still learning how the local government works, and I'm sure I don't want to be working that way. As I was doing my research, I found out that we are going to pass an ordinance today to appoint a director of public safety instead of police chief and deputy police chief. Just a month in Somerset, county prosecutors took over the FTTPD. Shouldn't we wait? Common sense tells us that we should wait until they find what their things are, what their recommendations would be, and then pass this ordinance. I'm not sure why the hurry to pass the ordinance is. And I was reading through the ordinance. I saw a lot of spelling mistakes, a lot of places they cut out that shouldn't be there. I didn't see a job description there, qualifications. The overwhelming consensus that I read and see recommends that we should not be going in this direction. So I reached out to some of the folks that I know, and also to the New Jersey State Association of Chiefs of Police. And I want to read this into the record. The NJSACOP is requesting that you hold off in your decision to make the director in lieu of the chief. There are numerous benefits of having a chief in lieu of police director. A director will not have access to criminal records, internal affairs, confidential police records, and sensitive law enforcement information. Whenever I come to this council, I feel violated. They cannot respond to police calls or crime scenes. A police director has no police powers by law. Your police chief can do all this above and more. Our association understands you have some concerns about the future leadership of the agency. We would like to offer our assistance at no charge at pro bono. We can offer free advice and discuss mentor programs when you select a chief of police to help our community. I'm sure you have not done the research. This model has worked for numerous agencies throughout the New Jersey. We will help a township develop a plan to ensure success for the next chief, the agency, and the township. I work in human resources. Usually there is a job description, then they go in the hiring process. Looks like here they have already found the person, and now they're putting a job description together. We have debated for multiple months on some of the transgressions which has gone in this council. People have come here multiple months voicing their concerns, and none of the council members had the guts to call him out. But I do not know why this hurry to pass this ordinance within a month. But we are ready to pass an ordinance to change the landscape of the protection of our citizens and their safety and our own community. In a month, because this is a political appointment, what is the hurry? I don't understand. You're all Democratic. Anyhow, it's going to pass. Wait a month, 2 months. Unless there's money or there is some other thing coming into play here. The council can appoint the township manager, police chief, and the township judge. And now we have outsourced that to somebody else. Now the whole police department will be run by the political appointee. Change the rules, since this is no checks and balances council. What you should be doing is pass a term limits for yourself. 2 to 3 terms. Bring new people in. Because I'm not sure if public service is the real motivator for all of you guys. I thought all of you are decent people, but I question it now. Some of you are here for health benefits. Some of you are here for other reasons. I've not seen an experience or qualification, as I mentioned before. Last time when I was here, I heard, oh, we don't bond for the roads. That would be stupid, in my opinion. I read all the townships. Somebody said we passed the sewerage bill, increased it, because we want to reduce the taxes. Rob Peter to pay Paul. And then say, oh, we didn't pass a big tax increase. I'm not sure what's going on in this council. I'm really disappointed. We are not working as one family. Somebody just came up and said, that's progressive Democrats. I don't think that is progressive Democrats. Thank you for my time.
Anyone else wishing to speak?
Alhaji Fofana, 17 Lake Avenue. Just like listening to most of the speakers, last Friday, Mr. Mayor and Councilman Charles, I saw you in one of my masjid. You're trying to explain that there's something going on in the township police administration, but you didn't specify exactly what happened. And I was kind of confused. As a mayor, I feel like you should be able to tell congregants or voters what really happened. I mean, we learn about the police chiefs and deputy being retired without nobody know why they are retired. I feel like we, the citizens, you guys owe us obligation to tell us why they were forced to retire and why they are appointing director of police as a civilian. I mean, that's my question for now.
Mr. Mayor, if I could just address one statement that that gentleman just made. The chief of police and captain were not forced to retire. I don't know where you've heard that, but that's not the case. They voluntarily retired. They both had well in excess of the 25 years mandated by the state of New Jersey to receive a full pension in the police and firemen's pension system, and they opted to retire. The decision as to why they opted to retire is their personal decision, and it's really not for discussion in a public matter, as a public forum. So I think that I need to speak at least on their behalf. They chose to retire. That was their personal decision, and I think that we should respect that. So that's all I have to say about that.
No, I'm sorry, you've spoken. Anyone else wishing to speak?
My name's Robert Westner. I've lived here for 21 years. I had the honor of being married by the mayor just over a year ago right in this room. This is the first time I've come to a council meeting. And one of the things I've loved about living in Franklin Township for the last 20-some years is we all get along. There's Christian churches, there's synagogues, there's mosques, there's Buddhist temples. We all get along. If the United Nations could do as good, the world would be a better place. Personally, the reason why I think we all get along is we are part of a republic. A democratic society that's a republic, where we all have equal say in things. We might not always agree with each other, but we have an equal say. And when I found out that we're replacing the chief of police with a public safety person who's going to report to the township manager, non-elected positions, we no longer have that say. I want to have that say. I don't want anyone in the police department reporting to somebody who's not duly elected. The police chief should report with the mayor. That's the way it should be. The step that you're taking to eliminate and allow a public safety director to report directly to township management, which is an appointed position, is a step towards socialism, ladies and gentlemen, if not communism. And I think you all need to wake up. I'm here as an American citizen. I volunteered in the U.S. Navy. My father fought as a Marine in World War II. And I want this to stay as a republic. I want this to stay a democratic society. We need a police chief. The police should report to a police chief. You're asking a fighter pilot to land his fighter jet and then report his findings to someone that's never even been on an aircraft carrier. And that's just wrong.
Yeah, when he's done.
Mr. Mayor, I just have to address that point as well. First, under our current form of government, Faulkner Act Manager Council form of government, the chief of police reports to the township manager, not to the elected officials. So there is no change in the current structure should the council choose to adopt the ordinance to name a police director or public safety director. All department heads and all staff report to the township manager as the chief executive officer of the municipality. That's the form of government that this town has had since 1958. So that hasn't changed, and that would not change. The chief of police, during his tenure here, 2 chiefs of police reported to me, and they do not report to the elected officials. The elected officials are more like a board of directors and don't get involved in the day-to-day functions of the municipality. They're the policy setters, not the persons responsible for day-to-day operations. So that doesn't change with this ordinance amendment that's being proposed. So I think that's all I have to say about that, Mr. Mayor.
And Mr. Mayor, and I just, once again, I think the gentleman just got it actually backwards. The fact of the matter is that this gives the council more of a say, and it actually requires the department head to answer to them through the township manager, because right now, as the chief of police, he's not answerable to anybody for the day-to-day operations of the police department. He's not answerable to the manager. He's not answerable to the council, and he can't be removed. So the fact of the matter is that this does exactly the opposite of what you suggested. This actually makes the police department the officer in charge of the police department more responsible to the people who are elected by the people. So it actually, a couple of the speakers have actually kind of got it actually backwards. The other thing about it is this, is I just want to make sure everybody understands, this ordinance does not appoint anybody to Public Safety Director, it just creates the position. That's all it does.
Anyone else?
Mr. Mayor, seeing no one else come forward, I make a motion to close the public session.
Second that.
All in favor of closing public session, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried, public session is closed. Okay, Mr. Wright, we'll start with you. Okay, Mr. Chase.
I will report to some of the Land Use Committee meeting, Land Use, Open Space, Parks and Recreation that we had on June 26th, and Mr. Wright will report on some of it. Habitat for Humanity, which I think most people know what they do, and typically they build new houses on township land. We give them the land. They currently have plans to build lots on Jerome Street, which is sort of off Campus Drive, just south of 287. There's more of Jerome north of 287. And also on North Lawrence Street, a little off Hamilton. And the first thing they have to do is determine whether there are wetlands on these properties. There are state maps based on aerial photos suggesting that there may be wetlands on both of these properties. So you have to have an on-the-ground study by a qualified professional to determine this. This costs about $5,000 a lot. They're asking that the township pay for the wetland study, because if the wetland study comes out that it's mostly wetlands, then they won't go ahead with plans to build on these properties, whereas if there's enough space, they will go ahead and draw up detailed plans. We have a request, we have a grant for $200,000 toward mothballing the Stutthof Gunther House, which is a historic house off South Middlebush Road. The bid came in for doing this at $391,000. So the question is, will we spend $191,000 of our money toward this? The Open Space Committee recommended unanimously that we do this. But it does raise the question of what will we do with this house eventually. Also, Councilman Prasad asked about the status of the AstroTurf cricket pitch at Consolata. That is in the budget, and a shade pavilion there. It's in the budget to build one at Western Road. In the future, we will have one at the cricket field at Consolata. And Councilman Wright will report about the CDC Properties request to build senior apartments across Martin Street from the big senior apartment building.
You sure you don't want to go now, Mr. Wright?
Email.
Okay. Mr. Prasad.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The admin committee hasn't met, and land use, Councilman Wright and Chase are reporting on it in the process. And the Human Relations Commission is actually appointing a new junior commissioner at the recommendation of the Guidance Department, Rithika, and the Community Foundation hasn't met. It meets next week. And Mayor, myself, and Councilwoman Pruitt and Francois attended the 15th anniversary of the Wat Dal Dham temple across the street. And so it is a busy time with all kinds of celebrations and picnics, etc. So that's my report, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Woman Kimberly Francois.
I wanted to just say to Mr. Schaefer, thank you for your comments. I appreciated your input. And I'm sure that everything I do will not be of acceptability to everybody. But I do sit here and do what I think is right at all times. And so, but I do appreciate you coming forward and giving me your feedback. That's it means something to me, by the way. Also wanted to say that just to give an update on the youth center, the parking lot, the clearing of the parking lot will begin tomorrow. And if the weather is permitting, it will be completed by the end of next week. So we'll have the staging area completed, all the trees down, so we can start embarking on the parking lot. And I think that's about all I need to say tonight, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Onijaka.
Thank you, Mayor. Though I don't have much to say tonight. First of all, I would like to thank the organizers of last 4th of July fireworks, which was well attended by a lot of people. And the most important part of this occasion like this brings diversity in the township. It brings everybody together and give us the spirit to work as one person and only one group. So I use this privilege to thank them and encourage them to continue in this direction. Thank you, Mayor. That's what I have.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilman Will Gualtieri.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. To echo a little bit of what Councilman Onijaka said, thank you to all our township employees who put in the time last week for another great 4th of July festivities and the fireworks. And thank you to Mr. Grippo, who works hard each year to get to organize it with his with support, of course. There's too many people to name, so I will just do a blanket thank you to everybody. Tonight we just had a brief Public Safety Committee meeting. We also, fire prevention, which is normally the second Thursday of the month, is moved this month to the 4th Thursday of the month, just because of availability of members of the board. And we did have a sewage authority meeting last Tuesday. Beginning next week, work will resume on Weston Canal Road to repair the force main that's out there. So please be aware of that. That's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Councilwoman Crystal Pruitt.
I will also keep my comments relatively brief. I had a senior advisory meeting. There was discussion about beautification of the senior center. As Councilman Prasad mentioned last night, I was able to attend the event at the temple. I definitely appreciate them allowing me to come. I had a prior engagement and I showed up well after 9, but they gave me ice cream and gave me a tour, so I think I had the best experience. And I look forward to visiting and participating in future events. We also had a Hamilton Advisory Board meeting. We discussed some of the new things coming potentially down the pipe, and we talked Chamber of Commerce was there and discussing things, and we also discussed a lighting study that was done around Hamilton Street, closer to the park. I have a Fire Chiefs Association meeting tomorrow. Things that have already happened. I was able to sit down with our construction department. Probably one of the hardest working departments in terms of volume of work to the individuals doing it. So I thank Vincent Lupo for letting me come out and obviously extending an invitation for me to come with him or his evaluators to go out and do an actual site inspection. And he wanted me to relay that invitation is open to all of my colleagues if they would like to come out and see what the construction inspectors do firsthand. Echoing my colleagues, I also attended the fireworks. It was really special to attend as a councilwoman for the first time in a place that I grew up and fireworks I've seen when I was really little. Thank you to everyone who made that possible, including our police department, our EMTs, fire prevention, our fire departments, public works, everyone from the top to the bottom that makes events like that possible. I appreciated the work they did. It was a great event. I also donated blood on the 5th, so thank you everyone who came out to this very room on the Friday and donated blood, and everyone who attempted to, although I did not receive my voucher for the Mets tickets, so that might be a good thing considering how they're doing. And that's that. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Councilman Wright.
Miss McCarthy's number 2 is waving at me, so she must be printing it. If you don't mind going to the deputy mayor. Thank you.
Yes, we will hold up everything for Councilman Wright. Councilman Vasanella.
Thank you, Mayor. So yeah, the fireworks are great, and I think this year was a little less hot and humid than some years in the past, and it was spectacular. John, in case there was any, Mr. Tibbs, in case there was any confusion, I just was saying before when you had asked that a couple days after you had brought it to our attention last time I drove by, and indeed, I think the manager mentioned that night that a lot of the parks were getting them, and once I saw it was there, I just figured that was a settled issue. So I just wanted to let you know that. Ted, Councilman Chase reported on the land use. We had a public safety meeting tonight. Councilwoman Pruitt, Councilman Gattatara was there, the mayor and myself. Prosecutor was there, and we discussed a variety of things, including briefly the ordinance that's being proposed tonight. And I can't speak for all my colleagues, of course, that were there, but I guess when it comes up, maybe it'll be some comments concerning the ordinance. But after I'm comfortable with moving forward in that direction, and I just want to say I think we have a very, very committed, dedicated, and quality police force, and that's about it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Assemblyman Danielson. So normally I don't, we stay within council, but I know Assemblyman Danielson has an important point to make, and we're delaying, trying to give Councilman Wright time to get his email working.
Thank you, Mayor. So you have literally nothing better to do than to listen to me. All right, I'll take it though.
I'm not sure I'd even go that far.
All right, okay.
And by the
Thank
way-
you, Mayor and Council.
By the way, you have 5 minutes.
I'll be less than that, but thank you. Good evening. Thank you for the opportunity to allow me to address the council and the people of Franklin Township. Since March of this year, when the governor announced his proposed fiscal year budget for 2020, I immediately began asking my legislative district towns to let me know which project work that they were working on and how I could assist them with additional state aid money to help to reduce the tax liabilities for its residents. And as always, Franklin was quick to develop the list of potential projects, starting with the help of Bob Vornlocker. And I was pleased to partner with him on creating that needs list based upon the importance and the cost. The project that was chosen, that we focused on, was one that I presented for consideration for the state budget, and it was long overdue in both execution and delivery. It came to an amount of $1.1 million for the stream restoration and stabilization of a portion of, if I'm pronouncing this right, DeRose Brook. DeRussie's Brook, which took considerable damage during Superstorm Sandy. And the current stream channel and the bank erosion has now created bank escarpments of up to 8 feet high and has already migrated into the backyards of 8 homes. The escarpments are currently threatening to undercut and destroy some buildings and structures and fencing along the previously stable banks of that stream. On June 20th, when both houses, the Assembly and the Senate, passed the fiscal year 2020 state budget, the funding for Franklin Township was intact in that legislation. It was in the budget, which we then forwarded to the governor for his final approval. Unfortunately, the governor waited until the very last day of the fiscal year to sign that budget, June 30th, and then announced without even notifying me or any other legislator that he was freezing $235 million within the $38.7 billion budget until he declares and certifies specific revenues for these items. While there is currently funding to pay for all of his frozen projects impacting all corners in New Jersey, the governor signaled his unwillingness to work with his political party leaders to seek a positive resolution. So as your representative, I am very concerned that I received no prior notification that this item was frozen, and I have already spoken to the governor, his chief of staff, about his lack of transparency on this issue and such impacts to municipalities, regardless if they were small or large. But even though the governor froze this money, it is in a budget, $1.1 million specifically set aside for Franklin Township. I'm going to continue, I promise you, I will continue to push and discuss for the full restoration of the funding that was set aside for Franklin, along with the countless other budgetary needs, which provides our citizens a better life. If you have any questions, ask now or at any time. But I would like to see that money unfrozen because I believe the state could pay for it now, and it would be a big benefit for Franklin Township. Thank you, Mayor, for the opportunity. I appreciate it.
Always, Assemblyman. I hear you're always at our service.
And I'm always at your service.
Mr. Mayor, if I could just add something, I think that, this is sometimes hard for me to believe that I'm about to say this, but I think that Assemblyman Danielson was being extremely modest here, and the amount of work. So it was very easy for me to just simply identify projects that we could put forward to the Assemblyman to be considered for state funding. It was actually the Assemblyman and his staff that did a tremendous amount of work to get it all prepared. That project entails a great deal of documents as it relates to the engineering of the improvements that need to be done on the stream corridor. And all of that was assembled by Assemblyman Danielson and his staff and put forward to the state budget. So, I mean, I really do want to say thank you to him and the people who work for him for doing this, because this project is of great cost to the township to benefit relatively few property owners, but we do have an obligation to take care of this, and I think it's the perfect project to receive state aid on for that reason alone. So thank you, Assemblyman.
Still out there.
Maybe we can have a ceremony for Councilman Wright missing in action. Okay, so my statements are very brief. Again, on the 4th of July, I'd like to thank all the workers. I very much want to thank our Special Projects Officer, Safi. She's really an unsung hero, comes out there, does things, comes out on weekends, does a million things, and I actually feel guilty for not calling her up to the stage and letting people clap for her, because she just did an enormous amount of work arranging the Mr. Tibbs, I'm surprised we didn't hear more congratulations about the pool, but I'm very glad the pool was open. You've held our feet to the fire on it, and we've gotten the pool open. Kudos to the manager for pushing that along. That wasn't easy. And kudos in following in the shadow of Mr. Schaefer, kudos to Ms. Francois. You must be very excited, groundbreaking tomorrow. It's a labor of love, but it's not that it's been easy for you. So congratulations to you on that. And now, Mr. Wright, last chance.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay.
And you know something about this? I was doing it over there. Never realized that my printer was over here. So we were looking for this thing, and unbelievable.
Yeah.
Here we go. The Community Development Corporation properties. The committee discussed the request for $500 in the funding from the Township Affordable Housing Trust Fund. $500,000. Dr. Chase was, he just, Mr. Hilly indicated that the CDC property structured the request upon the township staff, i.e. that the township funding would be based upon converting 2 of the moderate income units to very low income units for a period of at least 30 years, and that the Community Development Corporation had submitted an analysis showing that of the rental income would exceed $500,000. Mr. Hilly indicated that such an approach would help satisfy the township's very large affordable assistance obligation. At least 30% of the Housing Trust Fund expenditures help the township stay ahead of its very low income requirement, at least 13% of the total number of affordable income. And that the township's Affordable House Trust Fund can accommodate the request. Therefore, the committee suggests that we were in favor of this request. Now, the request, as it was, it helps the township when it has the affordable trust plan, how many units we have. And if you've been following the newspaper closely, other townships in the area do not have enough housing in the affordable area. Therefore, they get stuck with the call builder's remedy. And what that does is, wherever I find a piece of land, I can stick affordable housing at. But we've been ahead of the curve. Through RPM, our developer in the redevelopment area, we have built a lot of low-income housing, moderate-income housing, and affordable, which is market rate. Therefore, we are definitely above the curve, and we're good about that. And we want to thank Mr. Healy because he's been a proponent of taking care of business that way. So we're happy about that. Also, on the Little League front, I went around to the Little League area because I received a phone call about people parking on their property, which, when I went, is true. Cars would park on the property because there were no sidewalks. There was no barrier to keep the cars from parking. So a lot of residents have gone to putting boulders on the side of their property to keep you from crossing over. A lot of them have put cones up. So they've used various tactics to keep you from parking on their property. Also, the baseballs would go over the field. Now, this is very important. I hit a home run. It goes over, and instead of stopping in that dead space, it goes over into someone's backyard. Now, you live there and somebody comes in your backyard looking for a baseball. How does that work? You don't know who they are, what they're doing, but they're in your backyard. And one lady, she explained to me, she has a pool in the backyard. When the balls hit over the fence and they're in her backyard, somebody comes back to retrieve the ball. Her kids are in the pool, young kids. How does that work? So, looking at that situation, we decided that we were looking to place nets along the northerly border boundary, along the left field line, which is the big field, to prevent the balls from going into adjacent residential properties. Now, you ask me what type of net are we talking about? If you watch a football game, you see that they raise the net in the end zone to keep the football from going into the crowd, so it bounces back. That's the type of net we're looking for in that particular area. Now, this is the part that hurts. Design the lights that we need to put in. The Little League would like to have lights put in, but one of the concerns I had was that if you put the lights in, and Mayor Kramer will like this, where do we stop? In the sense that I don't want the light in someone's backyard. Now, there are some houses that are really close. One is at the corner of right field, and her house is sitting there, so if you put a light there, I don't care what you do, that light is going to bounce back. Now, what we said we would look at are some of the designs out there that would stop the light, keep the light on the field, but I know that glow would probably go someplace else. And that's what I don't want to happen. So that's going to be a while. We're going to have to work on that to keep the light on the field and no glow around her house. Appropriate measures taken, i.e. curb signage, to prevent people from parking on front lawns of residents, and that would start near Clifton and Landers Avenue. Even with the expanded parking that the township manager that we worked on before, we're clearing an area for the cars to park. But I feel, and some of the council members feel, and definitely the people that live there feel, that even with the expanded parking, there's going to be an issue. And as I said before, I would rather take care of the issue before it becomes an issue. I don't want you coming to me next year and saying, listen, you had an opportunity to do this, it floated out here, and you didn't do it, now you got to come back and do it when I knew I should have done it last year. Did you get that? I'm proactive. I want to get that done so that we don't come back here next year and talk about lights, talk about curbing, and that's what I would like to do now. Councilman Prasad brought up, as you mentioned, the Western Field cricket areas? You did? Okay. Now, something else. Our redevelopment meeting wasn't held last month, but we have it coming up this month to discuss RPM and their various projects that they would like to pull forward. On the Housing Authority, we had a resignation on the Housing Authority. So when it comes up for committee assignments, as far as those that want to jump on the Housing Authority, I will have a recommendation coming from the Housing Authority and from our housing chairman to put someone on that committee, unless, Mr. Mayor, you want to do it now.
No,
Not a problem. And that's it.
You
I'm done.
sure?
4th of July was good.
Great.
I had a lot of fun. A lot of people came out. The fireworks were excellent as every year.
I think your 20 minutes are up.
20 minutes? I thought it was a little longer than that.
Okay, moving on. Mr. Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have a number of things to report. This Saturday from 9 a.m., as I try to read this, from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. at the Franklin Township Sewerage Authority building on Commerce Drive, Somerset County will be hosting Operation Secure Shred, available to all county residents. You'll need to show proof of residency, such as a valid New Jersey driver's license, to confirm that you live in Somerset County, and you can bring all of the documents that you are unable to shred at home, that you wish to be destroyed, and have them shred by Somerset County at no cost to you. Some things that have occurred, we've talked about the pool and the fact that the pool opened. It was somewhat of a monumental task for some involved that work for the township to get all of this done with the contractor and all of the issues that arose out of this pool relining project. But I was told by our recreation director, Alice Sipowicz, this morning that some young people in the camp program would be swimming in the pool this afternoon. So that's good news for all those who use the pool. And also, I don't know that anyone on council is aware of this, but one of those streets that has been discussed on a number of occasions as being desperately in need of being paved, but because of jurisdictional issues, has always been met with some resistance by the various jurisdictions that oversee it. Somerset Street, the portion in the 5th Ward from the New Brunswick border up to Route 27 is a concrete road that was in very serious disrepair, and it falls under the jurisdiction of Franklin Township, Middlesex County, and New Brunswick. It was paved today. So those of you who ride on it, and the best part about it is that certainly someone had to pay for it, but it was not Franklin Township, it was not Middlesex County, and it was not New Brunswick. It was Public Service Electric and Gas, who had torn it up so badly that they paved it from curb to curb, and I believe it was finished today. So I know that there are some who have thought that that needed to be done. They were absolutely right. It did. It was just a matter of getting everybody on the same page and everybody in the same room, and then tell Public Service together that they needed to do it. So it was done. So some issues have been raised in the public portion, and I did address some of them. So one thing that I want to address to the public is this. The question was raised. One, someone commented that there was no job description. Job descriptions are not included in ordinances. Job descriptions are part of our human resources function, and job descriptions are developed through the Human Relations Department. In this case, will be developed through the HR department and myself. I think I bring some credible source of information to the table as it relates to the police department, having spent 27 years of my career there as a police officer. So I certainly feel that I'm capable of working with the HR department to develop a job description. And also there was someone had spoken about appointment by the Township Council. This is not a Township Council appointment. This is a Township Manager appointment, just as is every other department head that is appointed by the township other than the clerk and myself. Those are the two positions that are appointed by the Township Council. Likewise, the only positions that are not managed by the manager are the manager himself and the clerk, who are both managed by the mayor and council. As far as why this ordinance would be on an agenda now, I don't know how long, and I'll discuss this later at the time of introduction of the ordinance, but I don't know how long the Somerset County Prosecutor's Office will be engaged in the oversight and review of our police department. That's an ongoing process that I am very much involved in, and I have daily discussions and daily involvement with the Chief of Detectives from Somerset County and our command staff locally as we work through this process. But I also don't want to look at how we're going to move forward at a time where now the Somerset County Prosecutor's Office is done and we're not situated to move forward because we haven't taken the appropriate actions. This is a long process as far as the naming of a public safety or appointing of a public safety director, a police director, whichever you refer to it as, it's the same thing. The truth is that I don't anticipate the prosecutor's office process to be exceptionally long. And as the township needs to move forward and the process will take time, you can't now decide 6 months from now that the decision is to move forward with a public safety director, and you begin that process now, and I, who am charged with the obligation and the responsibility of recruitment and interview and vetting and recommendation for this position, that whole process is not something that takes days or even weeks. It takes months. And so I don't know how there could be any consideration for moving forward in this manner without doing it now to give well, actually, in this case, to give me the opportunity to do it properly and to devote the amount of time and resources necessary to find the ideal candidate. This is not something that we should take lightly, and trust me, having spent as long a period of my life, the majority of my adult life, as a police officer, this is not something that's taken lightly. This is not something that I make recommendations on without great consideration and great labor. This is not anything that is being rushed into. This is something that is the beginning of a lengthy process, and it's a decision that I support, and I will, again, I'll touch on some other issues later, but I just feel that I need to say that now, and that's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. We're moving on in our agenda. Get to the right. I think we are on to approval of the minutes, which there are none. Council discussion item, there is none. And approval of the warrants. Warrants in the amount of $5,658,591.60 on July 9th are presented to the Township Council for payment. Do we have a motion on the warrant?
So moved.
Seconded.
Moved and seconded. Does anyone have a particular item they want to question, item to be pulled? Madam Clerk?
Councilman Chase.
Yes.
Councilwoman Francois.
Yes.
Councilman Galtieri.
Yes.
Mayor Kramer.
Yes.
Councilman Oni Jaka.
Yes.
Councilman Prasad.
Yes.
Councilwoman Pruitt.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Vasanella.
Yes.
Councilman Wright.
Item number 12, SY 219 Community Development Block Grant Action Plan. So now, we're laughing because she came out last time and it wasn't on the agenda. We're now coordinated. A public hearing on the CDBG 2019 Action Plan is in order. Do we have a motion to open to the public?
So moved. Seconded.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion on that? Seeing none. All in favor of opening the public session, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. We're open to the public on this item only, the CDBG 2019 Action Plan.
Mr. Mayor, seeing no one come forward, I make a motion, we close public session.
Seconded.
Moved and seconded. All in favor of closing public session on CDBG, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Motion is carried. And now resolution, well, do you wish to speak? Okay. I mean, you came all the way out twice. Resolution 19307, approving the filing of the FY, one is SY, the other is FY, 2019 Community Development Block Grant Action Plan. Following resolution 19-307, approving the filing, is presented to Township Council for adoption. Do we have a motion to adopt?
Motion to adopt.
Seconded.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? So the Community Development Block Grant is money given to us by the federal government that is distributed. The exact rules of how they're distributed are too complicated for me to explain. But this is basically money that goes to the people to do various projects. And every year the federal government threatens to take it away, but we manage to keep it. Franklin is large enough that we get to decide for ourselves what to do. Smaller towns, the county does the deciding. Is that I'm right there? So, okay, with no other discussion, Madam Clerk.
Councilman Chase.
Yes.
Councilwoman Francois.
Yes.
Councilman Galtieri.
Yes.
Mayor Kramer.
Yes.
Councilman Oni Jaka.
Yes.
Councilman Prasad.
Yes.
Councilwoman Pruitt.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Vasanella.
Yes.
Councilman Wright.
So public hearing and adoption on second reading, ordinance 4289-19, an ordinance amending the code of the Township of Franklin, County of Somerset, State of New Jersey, more particularly Chapter 23, Hamilton Street Business Community Special Improvement District, Section 23-10, Hamilton Street Advisory Board. Add Chamber of Commerce President or designee as member of the Hamilton Street Advisory Board is presented to public hearing and final adoption. The public hearing has been noticed as required. Do we have a motion to open to the public on this item only?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor of opening to the public, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. We are now open to the public on this item only.
Benjamin Guy, 35 Patton Drive. The reason why I think this is important, and I just want to make sure this is clear to our whole township or the board itself. The reason why the chamber is really important to this is because it's not just about Hamilton Street, it's about the main street, it's about the actual development and the foundational building blocks of what it means in this town to build together. If the Chamber of Commerce is not involved and they're not present on that board, it's sort of vital to that business district being left out. And so I think it's real vital that you guys move in this direction. I think it's long overdue that it should have been done, but I look for you guys to actually support this and actually put this involved. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak?
Mayor, seeing no one else coming forward, I motion to close the public portion of the hearing on this ordinance.
Seconded.
Moved and seconded. All in favor of closing public session, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Motion is carried. Do we have a motion on the item?
So moved.
Seconded.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion on the item?
Mr. Mayor, I believe that the Hamilton Street Business District will come back next month and at the next meeting to let us know the exact amount and how we're going to move forward with the board as far as the membership and makeup.
Yeah, well, just to, if I'm understanding, because I think Councilman Wright had a prior commitment the night we had the meeting, but I think there was unanimous support to move forward in this direction, and there's, I believe, also support from the board and council, certain council members to move forward with even more involvement from community members that live in that area. But we like to have time to vet and discuss it, so at the next Hamilton meeting, my understanding is there be further discussion, and as an advisory board, they make a recommendation, which we, always take very serious, and then we will, I believe the path would be to consider adding more members, which I've always supported and have wanted, more members that live in the community, that live 3 blocks or a half a mile, because they're going to be affected for the rest of their lives by what's going on there, and we want to make sure that they're affected in the most positive light possible. But for tonight, this is one major step forward, and as Councilman Wright said, I'm not sure exactly when next Hamilton meeting, I believe it's early September, but we hope to be coming forward with even further recommendations to make this board, the wonderful people on that board, but the more voices at seats at that table, especially from the people living in that neighborhood, I believe the better off, the more successful the efforts will be. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Seeing no other discussion, Madam Clerk?
Councilman Chase?
Yes?
Councilwoman Francois?
Yes.
Councilman Galtieri?
Yes.
Mayor Kramer?
Yes.
Councilman Oni Jaka?
Yes.
Councilman Prasad?
Yes.
Councilwoman Pruitt?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Vasanella?
Yes.
Councilman Wright?
So now we are on ordinances introduced on first reading. So there's a first reading, and the purpose of a first reading is to let the public know that an ordinance is being introduced. It's kind of a call out to the public. It requires advertisement so that at the proper time, they know that they can come to a public discussion and discuss the particular item. Ordinance 4290-19, an ordinance amending the code of the Township of Franklin, County of Somerset, and State of New Jersey, more particularly Chapter 226, Vehicles and Traffic, Section 26-19, through streets, add Gifford Road. The following ordinance is presented to the Township Council for adoption on first reading, posting and publication in accordance with law and public hearing and final adoption on Tuesday, August 13th, 2019, at 7 p.m. at the Municipal Complex. August 13, 2019, 7 p.m. Do we have a motion to introduce?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion on this? So the purpose of adding a road as a through street sounds like a lot of paperwork, but what it practically allows the town to do is once a road is designated as a through street, they can put stop signs at the intersections. So this is not just paperwork, it's allowing us to do certain things in the interest of public safety. You can't just put a stop sign wherever you want. Many times I've gone to the manager and wanted a stop sign, and unfortunately, our manager was the traffic officer for many years, and he knows all the rules. So he keeps us from getting in trouble and tells us, nope, you're not allowed to. But this will allow us to put it there. So we've had a motion, a second, and I've discussed this. Any other discussion? Madam Clerk.
Councilman Chase?
Yes.
Councilwoman Francois?
Yes.
Councilman Galtieri?
Yes.
Mayor Kramer?
Yes.
Councilman Oni Jaka?
Yes.
Councilman Prasad?
Yes.
Councilwoman Pruitt?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Vasanella?
Yes.
Councilman Wright?
You're welcome. Ordinance 4291-19, amending Section 5-38, Establishment of Department, and Chapter 50, Police Department of the Code of the Township of Franklin, Somerset County, and providing and establishing the duties of Director of Public Safety. The foregoing ordinance is presented to the Township Council for adoption on first reading, posting, and publication in accordance with law, and public hearing and final adoption on Tuesday, August 13th, 2019 at 7 p.m., a month from now, roughly, at the Municipal Complex. Motion to introduce and set public hearing.
So moved.
Seconded.
Moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? So clearly this is the soup du jour tonight. This is the ordinance that will allow the town to appoint a public safety director. We are giving, as I've noted, a little more than a month's notice that we are doing this. No secret. Mr. Manager, do you have a comment?
I'll have a comment after you actually introduce it.
Okay. Thank you. So we have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Madam Clerk.
Councilman Chase?
Yes.
Councilwoman Francois?
Yes.
Councilman Galtieri?
Yes.
Mayor Kramer?
Yes.
Councilman Oni Jaka?
Yes.
Councilman Prasad?
Yes.
Councilwoman Pruitt?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Vasanella?
Yes.
Councilman Wright?
Mr. Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Mayor, the Township Council tonight has taken the important next step by introduction of ordinance number 4291-19 to transition the leadership of the Township's Police Department to the Public Safety Director. Going forward, the line of authority will run from an appointed officer in charge, a sworn officer, to the Public Safety Director, and ultimately to me, the Township Manager. The day-to-day operational responsibilities for the Police Department will fall to the Public Safety Director. The Township Council and I believe that these changes are necessary to ensure the efficient operation of the Police Department. This ordinance will allow the Township to obtain a fresh perspective of the Department. Unlike the current ordinance, this will allow the search for the Department's next leader to expand beyond the current members of the force. Unlike a police chief, the Director will not have lifetime tenure. This ordinance will strengthen the accountability of the Police Department to both the Township Manager and the Council. It will ensure that our best officers are focused on their core law enforcement responsibilities and that the Department will have professional management at the top. The Township Council will the Township will continue to work with the County Prosecutor's Office in their review of the operations of the Department. The Police Director will be tasked with implementing any recommendations that result from the operational review. And now this is important. I want to take this chance to correct the perception that our police department was, quote, taken over by the prosecutor. In fact, the prosecutor's office is here at our invitation. The Township Council, our invitation because as the county's chief law enforcement officer, they are in the best position to assess the department's operations and recommend future improvements. It has been reported a number of times in the press by a number of different press outlets, no one in particular, that the prosecutor's office took over the Franklin Township Police Department. That is not true. The Franklin Township Council, by resolution, invited the county prosecutor to bring people here to assume temporary control of the police department while an evaluation could be done and recommendations could be made to improve the professionalism and management of the police department. That's off my script. That's off my statement. I have lots to say about this. Now is not the time for me to say it. Now is the time for council to take action, which they did. And I think that as we move forward, this will be a very positive thing for the township and a very positive thing for the police department. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Manager. We are now on to the consent agenda resolution. Items A through AC, as listed on the consent agenda portion of this meeting, are presented to the Township Council for adoption. Do I have a motion on the consent agenda?
So moved.
Seconded.
Moved and seconded. Do we have any discussion, any item to be pulled?
Yes, please.
Yes, Mr. Wright.
And I think I know the one, Dr. Chase. It's Resolution 19308, approval of the 2019-2020 hunting program in the Township of Franklin. Dr. Chase?
Well, I can say as liaison to the Open Space Committee, which develops the hunting program, that basically it will be the same as last year, which means that our two biggest properties that are hunted, the John Clyde Griggstown grasslands and the Negri Napoti grasslands, will be closed 6 days a week during what are called the second and third firearm seasons, basically from the beginning of December through the middle of February. In September, October, November, there is bow hunting on these and a number of other properties, but this does not debar individuals not hunting from going on the properties, though they'd be well advised to wear hunter's orange when they do. But during the periods when we have gun hunting, there's a period of 6 days at the beginning of December where you can blaze away with pretty much anything. After that, it's shotguns or muzzle loaders, but still for the safety of the public and the efficiency of the hunters, we will be closing these properties to non-hunters 6 days a week. On Sundays, there's no hunting, and they're open to everybody else. I actually wanted to take note of Resolution 19311, recognize 2020 Complete Count Committee and partner with U.S. Census Bureau for 2020 census. Anybody who's been reading the press knows that there's a good deal of controversy about the census and that the president wants to put in a question about citizenship, and it's widely believed that the real purpose for this is to discourage immigrant communities from participating in the census and thereby lower the count in a lot of areas. So it's very important, probably more important than ever before, that we have outreach from the township to all the communities in the township, and if anything, I hope, and this provides for the Human Relations Committee to be the Complete Count Committee, but I hope that they will feel free to add additional representatives to ensure reaching out to all of the various communities in the township, make it clear to them the importance of responding to the census, and that by law, information obtained as part of the census cannot be released to any other part of government. So I'm very happy that we are instituting a complete count committee here. I've read recent things in the press about how many major municipalities in New Jersey have not done this.
Thank you. I say with great hesitation, does anyone else have any items? Madam Clerk, as fast as you can.
Councilman Chase.
Yes.
Councilwoman Francois.
Yes.
Councilman Galtieri.
Yes.
Mayor Kramer.
Yes.
Councilman Oni Chaka. Councilman Prasad.
Yes.
Councilwoman Pruitt.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Vasanella.
Yes.
Councilman Wright.
Yes.
Item number 16, resolutions to be voted on separately, Resolution 337, supporting a moratorium on fossil fuel projects in New Jersey. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Madam Clerk.
Councilman Chase.
Yes.
Councilwoman Francois.
Yes.
Councilman Galtieri.
Yes.
Mayor Kramer.
Yes.
Councilman Oni Chaka.
Yes.
Councilman Prasad.
Yes.
Councilwoman Pruitt.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Vasanella.
Yes.
Councilman Wright.
Old business, boards, committees, commissions, vacancies. Anyone have a nomination?
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Russell Demkowitz has resigned as a board commissioner from the Franklin Township Housing Authority. And what we would like to do is replace him with Mr. Felix Vargas for consideration of that appointment for the Board of Commissioners for the Franklin Township Housing Authority. We also had a resignation from Mr. Michael Giannato, who was the DCA appointment to the commission. Now, we've already informed them of Mr. Giannato's resignation, so we're waiting for them to make their appointment to the Housing Authority, which should take some time. But what I want the Township Council now is to vote on Mr. Felix Vargas to replace Mr. Demkowitz on our Housing Authority.
For the unexpired 5-year term ending February 8th.
Excuse me?
I'm asking if this is for the unexpired 5-year term.
Yes.
Are there any other nominations for that position? Hearing none, we can do this by acclamation. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. Congratulations. Anyone, any other nominations? We are now on to executive session. The following resolution is presented to Township Council for consideration. 19338, authorize executive session, litigation, and PBA SOA contract negotiation. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Seeing no discussion, all in favor of going in, I'm sorry, we have to do roll call. I'm sorry, Madam Clerk.
Councilman Chase.
Yes.
Councilwoman Francois.
Yes.
Councilman Galtieri.
Yes.
Mayor Kramer.
Yes.
Councilman Oni Chaka.
Yes.
Councilman Prasad.
Yes.
Councilwoman Pruitt.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Vasanella.
Yes.
Councilman Wright.
At this time, the Township Council will adjourn to the executive session to discuss the actions I've just mentioned. No other actions are going to be taken at the conclusion of the executive session. Therefore, the recording of this meeting will end now. Be well, Franklin.